Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Real Financial Freedom Podcast. Today I'm here with my friend Long.
Hi everyone, how you doing? Welcome back. Today we'll be talking about Airbnb compared to the traditional rental market, and what is the difference between the two, and how you can earn a passive income between Airbnb and rental income.
That's right. I love Airbnb. I think it's one of the most genius businesses. It's taken over, just like how Netflix took over Blockbuster, just like how Amazon took over the malls and Uber took over the taxis. Airbnb has taken over the hotel industry, and it's allowed individuals like myself and others who don't own hotels be able to leverage and use Airbnb as a tool to either rent out their space part-time or use it as a tool to generate cash flow in cities where it's very difficult to do so.
Yeah, and even myself, I'm looking to purchase a cottage this year, and I for sure going through Airbnb. Now you're gonna do a rental, and even from yourself, I know you have a few Airbnb rental properties. I mean, sorry, Airbnb properties, for where you make quite a good better money than you would usually get from standard rentals, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So how did you start into this?
Well, the way it kind of started for us was from a painful situation, right? Like we purchased the property, which had a nice big piece of land, and we bought it so we can kind of assemble it with the other houses, the neighbors, and create a site to sell to a developer for townhouses. But because the price was really high, and at the time we bought it with a higher interest rate, our monthly payments was super high. For us to traditionally rent that property, we would get somewhere between $3,000 to $4,000. But Airbnb was a totally different ballgame. And we didn't figure this out for some time. Like for a couple of years, we were just doing it the normal way. And then all of a sudden, my sister Diana she said, why don't we try Airbnb? And then and we're like, yeah, we have nothing to lose, right? Like at that time, we didn't really know how lucrative it was.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually tried it, and before we know, it's already almost 1.5 times. Then we got to learn more. It became double. So now today, looking back, on average we're getting somewhere between $8,000 to $10,000 a month.
Oh wow!
From a same house that we would traditionally get $3,000 to $4,000 a month in rent from one person.
That's basically more than double almost. Like that's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important because in Toronto, like we're at the golden age of Toronto real estate is kind of getting to a point where it's becoming unaffordable. And it's not only it's unaffordable, but there's no cash flow. It's actually negative cash flow for a lot of investment properties where you want to use it as a rental, unless you buy like these triplexes or fourplexes or multifamily units. A single family home, it's almost impossible to get cash flow unless you put heavy, more than 40-50% down payment, which a lot of people don't want to leverage that much of their money. The only solution is doing short-term rentals. So it could be Airbnb and a few other websites, but the main player in the game is Airbnb.
So let's start with the positive. What will be the tricks of the trade of Airbnb? Like how would you? Because it's not as simple as because I know there are people who went to Airbnb and then they obviously weren't doing that well. And obviously, it's because like anything, you have to have a plan for it. It can't be just like I'm gonna jump into it. So, what would you suggest, or what tips would you give for Airbnb?
Well, the first thing that you have to understand, renting your property on Airbnb is different than traditional rent. Traditional rent, you find a tenant, you negotiate the price and terms, you exchange keys and checks, and that's it. From that day on, like the only thing you have to worry about once in a while, they may call you to ask you like something is damaged or whatever. But with Airbnb, it's more like running a hotel, like a mini hotel business. It's all about the experience. It's all about getting 5-star reviews as quickly as you can so you become a super host. Because once you have a lot of 5-star reviews, other guests which are searching for properties on Airbnb, they read the reviews. You know what I mean? Especially the younger generations, they're all about reviews. If they see a lot of good reviews, they're willing to pay you a higher price than your competitor in the area. Even if the other house looks better but has lower reviews, they're willing to pay you higher, which sounds crazy, but it's almost like having a lot of good reviews has a premium on your listing.
Actually, I myself have actually done it before. With my friends, we do like the Airbnb as well. for colleges and stuff, and then we actually did find a property that it looked phenomenal, but the reviews were just a little off compared to the other one, and we obviously chose the one with the better review.
Right.
But then, so if you treat it like a hotel, that means there's a little more engagement from you compared to the rentals, right? So
Yeah.
you yourself work obviously full time, 24 hours a day almost. So how has that has that really strained you managing the Airbnbs, or has it added any is it worth the stress that comes with it, right?
Well, unlike when you rent out a property and you just it's almost like passive income. This has a little bit of more active. You got to actively be involved a little bit. How actively involved you want to be is up to you. You can delegate and find partners at a lot of the different tasks. For example, the cleaning company. You can have a cleaning partner. You can have a handyman who once in a while goes there and fixes little things. There's even management companies who manage your listing, so they respond to all the inquiries, respond to all the questions, any problems, any changes in booking requests. They charge anywhere between 5 to 20% depending on the company and their reputation and how good, how well they are. But a lot of the things could be automated. You can literally be completely have nothing to do with it. Just once in a while get involved just to check the books and some of the other things. But you can literally delegate the whole thing. For me personally, the part that I do and I've been doing from the beginning is kind of the managing the bookings, because I'm always on my phone. I'm in real estate, so it's I'm always on my phone, and it literally takes me a few minutes a day at the most to deal with inquiries. You know what I mean? So that part is not difficult for me. And the more I've been doing it, the more I kind of learned about it. So again, it could be fully automated, and we can talk more about this in this call.
Okay, perfect. So then, how would you suggest a person look for Airbnb property? Then, what would the key factors when you buy real estate, where you say, hey, this is a house where I should do an Airbnb?
So for me, the first one where we actually started doing it, it was by accident. It was just like I explained, it was because of such a high payment we had to pay in mortgage payments, and the rent didn't cover nearly what we had to pay. So it came from a pain. If I had to choose strategically, that wouldn't be my ideal location. The way you want to basically pick a location, whether if you're buying the house for Airbnb purposes, or sometimes you can literally rent the house from a landlord and sublease it as an Airbnb, obviously with permission and with the right in your agreement you have to write it. But if you're going to pick a location, you have to basically follow what the hotels have done. You know what I mean? See where there's a lot of hotels, where there's convention centers, hospitals, universities, airports, highways. So if you look around where the hotels are kind of crowded in certain areas, there's a reason why they're there. They've done millions and millions of dollars of research to see where they should be located. They're not going to just open a hotel in a random location just because it looks nice.
Yeah.
It's all about commuting, where people are coming and going from. If there's big convention centers, there's going to be a lot of seminars or events that's happening there. Maybe near downtown locations. So you got to look for those types of areas, which will be more lucrative, and you'll have a much more guests booking your Airbnb. But keep in mind, with condominiums, you could have a hard time doing that. So make sure if you are gonna pick a condo for Airbnb, whether it's a condo apartment or a condo townhouse, make sure that condo corporation allows Airbnb, because if they don't and you just do it anyways, you're gonna have a hard time.
Yeah, and I think you've had that experience, I think, before regarding that, right?
When we just started, I didn't really know. I thought there was a condo townhouse complex.
Yeah.
I didn't think we were not allowed. I didn't know, so we just started doing it, and then we had some problems. Some people complained, and then we had to take it off, right? So it's not worth it. You want to do your research, make sure that if you are going to be doing it, there are certain condominiums in downtown, like the ICE condos and a few other ones that allow Airbnb.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to buy a condo for that purpose, make sure that you do your research and you know it's allowed.
So from that factor, then so you spoke about partners that you would need. Then so let's get into more of the details now. What kind of partners would you want and need to run like a successful Airbnb?
So if you're not in the real estate business, obviously you need a real estate agent to help you find, locate these properties, negotiate it for you, make sure the terms and conditions, if you're renting it to do it, use it as Airbnb, make sure the landlords know that. But if you're buying it, make sure, you know what I mean, you have a real estate. So that's the number one. But once you actually get it and you want to set up, what you need is you need housekeeping, basically like a cleaning company. You don't want to hire a one-man, one-woman show that does cleaning because if you start getting busy and they get other jobs, then you're left hanging. And the last thing you want is have a place not cleaned up for the next guest. So I would definitely look for a cleaning company that has multiple cleaners. And if one of them is sick one day or working on another house, you're not stuck. They can send somebody else.
And I said that's very important. So I used to work in the hotel business for like almost 10 years of my life, and I would say anyone here who's watching or everyone's been to a hotel, one of the most important factors of it is housekeeping. Like no one likes checking into a room and finding something dirty, and because that just changes the whole experience right off the bat. And the first interaction with the place is very important. And you never want to be stuck also in the wind with a housekeeper who can't clean the room when you have another person check in. Because I've been in that situation where, the rooms aren't ready on time, person's lining up to check in, and the room's not ready. Then it creates more trouble for you than anything, right?
Yeah.
So I guess housekeeping is one of the things when you're partners you don't really want to cheap out on. You kind of want to make sure it's a good company, vet them properly, and make sure they also do their cleaning properly, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with you, and I know you come from the hotel background, so you kind of know a little bit more about this than maybe even I do. And that's, in my experience, for the Airbnb is the most important thing. Even though we do have a partner with a cleaning company, there has been times where maybe the cleaner missed a spot and even like one little thing people will complain about. So let alone just coming into a place that's not even ready.
Yeah.
They'll literally cancel the Airbnb and you'll have bad review, negative. You just don't want that, right?
Exactly.
It's not good for business. And you also want someone who's reliable.
Yeah.
Like for us, our cleaner, they have access to the lockbox codes. They show up, they have access to our calendar. So they just show up when it's time to do the cleaning, and that's it. It's all automated. So when I was talking about having a reliable cleaning company that's also understands how to do Airbnbs, that's another really important thing. It's not just a cleaning company that cleans offices and houses.
Yeah.
Because the way they clean it, it's also preparing it for the next guest, like rolling the towels a certain way, folding the bed sheets. Like, when you walk into a hotel, you have certain things set up, and you're like, oh, nice. You walk in, it looks cool. So with the same thing with the Airbnb, like they have to set it up for the next guest to have that same consumer experience. Another thing is having a handyman, someone who can help you with the maintenance of minor things. Obviously, it's not going to be someone for major things, but sometimes something is leaking, something is not working, something small breaks. And you can find, on Craigslist or Kijiji, you can find, certain handymen who would take jobs like basically pay as jobs as you go. They're not on the payroll, because if you want to have someone on the payroll, it'll be difficult. You don't need them as much depending on how old the property is. But it's good to have them, because if you don't have them, then either you got to hire a contractor who's going to come out and charge you a minimum fee.
Yeah.
They'll just come out for like $30 or $40.
No.
When a handyman can come, if they're charging you $20 an hour and they go there for 3 hours, it's $60.
Yeah.
So that's one thing, and you don't want to be going there, even if you're a handyman yourself. Like, you don't want to have to get up on a Sunday afternoon from a barbecue to go fix a washer or like the fridge is loose or some small things like that.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And like it's worth it, like the $60, especially truthfully nowadays with gas. You traveling to your Airbnb is probably worth $60, or paying off the guy to do it and doing it properly, right?
And it's all about being responsive, right? Like, if they call you and say there's a problem with something and you send someone like right away, that shows that you're actually on top of things. Even if that person is not able to fix that problem immediately, it kind of calms the guests down. Like, it makes them think, okay, at least they sent somebody. It cannot be fixed right now. Hopefully now they'll send a contractor. So that's when, at that point, if your handyman goes there and they can't fix it, they can let you know, and then you call a contractor at that point to come in and fix it if it's like major plumbing or some kind of structural issues. The next thing is your booking websites, which obviously the main one is Airbnb. The best part about Airbnb and websites like it are that they do all the marketing for you. Like you don't need to actually go there and like run ads or try to find customers. Like you literally just list your property or properties on Airbnb or other websites like it. And what happens is people just keep coming and making inquiries. So that's super easy for someone who doesn't want to do all that stuff, right? They're spending all the money, resources, marketing dollars to get people to come to their website and land on your listing. Obviously, there's things you could do to make your listing stand out over and above other people's listings, you know, by using certain headlines, pictures, and description, you know what I mean? And pricing strategy, which we'll talk about in a little bit more. But ultimately, that would be another partner. So a cleaning company, a handyman, Airbnb, and then who else? So in some cases, you need you can have partners too, right? Like for example, for our Airbnbs, it's me, my sister, and my wife. Like there's 3 of us that's connected to each Airbnb. So if like for example, me and my wife are out somewhere, we can't respond, my sister Diana responds. So there's always one of us, because it's really important for you to respond to people immediately, even if you cannot solve their problem right away. It's important to say, hey, thanks so much for letting us know. We'll have someone take care of this right away.
And I totally agree with that, because like even for me, when I'm doing my cottage, I'm partnering with two of my other friends. Just also like, you know, it helps divide up the responsibilities, and because I've you know, talked to some other people who've done themselves, and they just found it very challenging. They kind of just sold it and gave up on it, because you know, managing any Airbnb or cottage or any Airbnb, it does take some time, and having partners who can help you step in when you can, and it allows you to have your life as well. It just makes things a lot easier, right?
Yeah, either you hire a management company, or if you're going to do it yourself, make sure you have another partner or two, just to be able to kind of respond to questions. Like they don't need to be the one going there to fix things, but at least just to, and then they can call you and say like, Long, you know, like this person, like this is serious. Like give them a call right now. You know what I mean? They have a better chance of finding you than maybe a message on Airbnb.
It's true. And responsiveness, as you said, is you know, is very it's very important.
Like there's a feature there. It shows like your average response time.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Good. So they measure that optic.
Oh, okay, that's good. Yeah. That's really good, because we, you know, same thing for hotels. You have to measure your optics and stuff like that. Like at least measure like your response time, because then that's how, you know, guests stay happy, right?
That just shows you how important it is when they're actually have a measuring statistics on that optic. Like that just tells you how important it is for you to be responsive. Yeah. Otherwise, they would never put it there.
Exactly.
And there's the reviews, right? The nice thing is insurance companies. So you want to insure your property, even though Airbnb, I believe they have $1 million insurance on their own. So if something does happen, they could cover it. But you also want to have your own insurance, and just remember when you are insuring your Airbnb to let them know you're doing it for Airbnb, because the insurance policy that covers a normal house, like a family house where you're living in it, is going to be different than insurance policy for a property you're going to be renting out short-term rental, because it may cost a little more, but ultimately if something does happen, your regular insurance won't even cover it. So you're wasting your money on that regular insurance. You're fooling yourself anyways. And insurance is only for times when something does happen. If nothing happens, you won't even notice it. But if something does happen, you'll probably never do Airbnb again.
Yeah, and honestly, that's true. Like insurance is one of the things never you want to skip out on, especially involving a house. Like there's also like, you know, things don't always go wrong, but when they go wrong, they can go very wrong, like very wrong. So like that's why, you know, having the right insurance backup for when things fall apart is very important as well, right? And this way you kind of you're not falling through like free fall. You can fall a little bit and catch yourself, right? Like a little parachute basically to save you, right?
For sure. So another thing is like if somebody wants to get started, a tip I have, which I didn't know for our first property, but I learned it after because I took a little course about Airbnb. One of the tips I have is if you're just starting out a fresh Airbnb listing, it basically has 0 reviews, right? So like it's almost like a person with no history of credit history. The bank sometimes may consider someone with a bad credit than no credit. You know what I
true.
mean?
Yeah.
It's like, so what you want to do is like, let's just say, for example, your Airbnb is worth based on comparables in the area and what other listings are renting short-term nights for, somewhere between like 250 a night, for example, on average, right?
Yeah.
So if you're starting out, if you start at 250 or 300, it may take you a little longer to fill up the calendar. But if instead of 250, you increase the first month to 150, right? So you're bringing down like almost 40% below market value, right?
Yeah.
You increase it, you decrease the price from 250 to 150. So now you're the best value in that area. So now you're gonna fill up your calendar much faster than if you stayed at 250. So by doing that, now you have guests coming to your Airbnb or your house. They're renting a place short term that is actually worth 250, but they're paying 150. So they're gonna feel like they got a lot more value than they actually paid for. So their reviews are gonna be amazing. They're gonna be like, "Wow, this place was worth every penny. I would definitely come back here. It was amazing." So you're gonna not only you're gonna fill up the calendar faster, but mainly your goal is not just to fill up the calendar; it's to fill up the calendar with 5-star reviews.
That's smart. It's like you know, when sometimes companies do an opening, they give like a special opening discount, you know, just to get the more people traction to come, review the food and or review the company. Same thing for Airbnb. It's smart. Like I actually never thought of that. Like,
Yeah, it's just for you to get that momentum and a bunch of reviews, because then on the second and third month you can now increase it back to 225, 250, 300, because now you have a reputation of having a nice place. So now when people even see the listing at 250 and they read the reviews, people are saying this was the best value for the money I paid. So then, you know, it automatically makes the guest feel like they're getting a valuable, like it's worth the money.
okay. Is there a way on Airbnb to track kind of like good client? Like, let's say you have a client who stayed here and then they really love the place and they want to come back next year. Is there a way you can track them and say, hey, you know, you stayed here last year. Would you like to stay here again this year? You know, is there something like that, or where you track that, or on Airbnb, like on the app? Probably not.
Yeah, you have you can go to your previous bookings, right?
Oh, okay.
And you can go to your messages. We actually had a lot of guests come back for the second time, and when they do, we remember them, so we kind of treat them a little bit more VIP.
Yeah.
You know, we let them check in earlier, check out later. We maybe leave them more freebies and stuff,
Yeah.
because obviously the repeat client is very valuable. So you've done something right for them to come back.
Exactly. Yeah, that's like the repeat clients definitely very important in any business, right?
Well, the thing with Airbnb is like because it's like a hotel, like unless you're like if you're located in a strategic location, yeah, you're gonna have more people coming back. So
Yeah.
we've had some of our listings where it's in a more like closer to the hotels, more likely people come back. Whereas some of the other ones where it's not really like in those strategic locations, you have less repeat clients.
Oh, fair
Because it's just based on location.
Yeah, that's true too.
But obviously the service is important too.
Yeah. All right. So since we were talking about you know how hotels do things compared to Airbnb, like you know they're taking over hotels. One of the most important factors for hotels is the presentation of the place. So what are the tips and how would you like stage or present Airbnb?
Well, when you want to set up your Airbnb, it's gotta be set up like a hotel, maybe a little bit, few different things added to it. So basically, number one is like setting it up with lockbox, or those keypads where you can just set it up from your phone. You can change the code from your phone. Like just having keys and going in there in person and giving the key to a guest and going and picking it up, giving it to another. It's very time consuming. This day and age, everything's digitized. So we have on some properties lockboxes before, but then now we also have those keypads where you could just put in a code, and then we can put in a new code for every guest. So we don't have to worry about the old guests knowing the new codes, because it's changing every time a new guest comes.
Okay.
And then the cleaners have their own codes, the handyman has their own code. So basically you can even track who's coming and who's going at what time.
Okay. Perfect.
Right. So that's one of the things. That's just for safety. And then also you want to have a maid closet. So we'll talk about what goes in the maid closet or the cleaner's closet, but you want to have some kind of inventory in the maid's closet, so when they come they can refill stuff, and you know, once a month you refill it, once a quarter depending on what things you need. But in the in the maid closet or cleaner's closet, you can also put all like toilet paper, toiletry, freebies that we're going to talk about, and just put one of those smaller locks for the inside doors, and just have a code one for them to be able to get in and get out.
Okay.
Because you don't want to leave that open for the guests too. 'Cause
Yeah.
some guests will just take everything home. You know what I mean? Even some guests go to hotels, they
Yeah.
take
Oh
towels.
yeah.
and-
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So this, we're not gonna fool ourselves thinking that the guest is not gonna just take the whole roll of toilet paper.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know, and you can't say anything to them if they do, right?
Yeah,
So
it's like
just the best thing to do is just lock it up in a closet and have a keypad, so then the guest can could do that. So now let's talk about some of the freebies. You could do this if you want. You don't have to. We do because obviously we feel like there's value in keeping people happy. So some of the stuff that we do, if you want to set yourself apart, is you can leave a bottle of wine on the table. You can put some free water in there in the fridge. You can put mint chocolates on the side of the beds. You know what I mean? It doesn't cost you much. Like each time might cost you $10 to $20,
Yeah.
but that's gonna help get you a better review and people coming back.
I also I've seen some Airbnbs. We rented one during Christmas time. They actually put up the Christmas decorations. That's something I think they add themselves. Like, of course, not every Airbnb I've been to have done that, but it's a little added incentive, which honestly will get you great reviews. Also, I've seen someone's anniversary, they're booking a nice anniversary date for their significant half, so they put little the towels would be in a heart shape or something like that. There's some little added little spaz to it, right?
Right, absolutely, yeah, for sure. And for seasonal things, you wanna, especially if you have a cottage or somewhere that's a little bit in certain areas, you want to make it seasonal. Add decoration for Christmas, for Halloween. For summertime, if you have a cottage, you want to put summer activity things, and for winter as well. But the freebies is definitely something that helps. The next thing is what kind of services you're gonna have for the guests to use. So obviously you need wireless internet. Like every human being, without internet, people go crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They'll start biting the walls off your house and start eating the furniture and stuff. So so you want to make sure to have wireless internet. It's not bad to invest in a better internet for the house, so the whole house kind of, depending on the size. Again, if you have a small condo or a smaller unit, you don't have to get crazy wireless. But if you have a house with 2 floors and a basement and stuff, you want to make sure you get a better wireless with those pods and stuff, so it kind of, because you don't want people keep calling and saying the internet doesn't work. And they will do that. Like when the internet went down in one of our Airbnbs for a couple of hours because it was the whole area, the guy called me 10 times. And I don't blame him because he was there working too, but that's just you don't want that to be something that's because of your weak internet. And then for the TV, you want to get a smart TV. So this way you can connect it to Netflix. Netflix is $10 a month, I believe. I don't know. I'm just using my sister's account, so I think it's $10 a month, but it's super cheap versus cable, which covers a lot, just a few channels. It's $60 to $100 a month, and nobody really watches cable anyways. And with the smart TV, they can connect to their Prime TV. I wouldn't connect my Prime TV because Prime TV, they can buy stuff. They can buy subscribe to channels and stuff.
Next thing you know, you have the new fridge. I didn't buy this fridge.
I don't know if they can I don't know if they can order things on the TV. I haven't tried it, but I know you can subscribe to channels or buy and rent movies. Okay. But Netflix, you can't buy or rent anything. It's just everything's free in there. YouTube, so that helps. What else so we're gonna talk about some of the furnitures, where you're gonna buy the furnitures. You know what I mean? If you're gonna be doing this or on a much larger scale, then and you want to buy furnitures, you can either go to these warehouses or wholesalers, but you can also go to Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace, Kijiji. You'll be surprised what kind of furniture you can find on pennies on a dollar. We found some nice furniture. There's people that buy new things and they're tired of their old things, and it's really nice and it's in good condition. You just have to be a little patient. You got to know how to negotiate and you got to know how to hunt. You know what I mean? But if you're not that type of person, you just want to go online, quickly order. Like there's a lot of companies that have that. Structure, Wafer, um, and then what else? So for the bedroom, so yeah, you need all the bedding stuff, sheets, pillows. I would suggest you get extra sets of those. So when the cleaner comes, they can do it. They can throw the things in the laundry and then at the same time set up, because sometimes you have 3 to 4 hours in between.
Yeah.
So you want to kind of give them time to be able to set up and everything. And it's always better to have an extra set.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We've seen sometimes people dirty the sheets. There's been times there was blood on the sheets. Don't ask me why, but you know what I mean? Like, we just had to throw those out. But,
Yeah.
but if you had to go buy a new set, and it would kind of be a little bit of hassle, but it's important to have extra
Yes,
set.
exactly.
Towels, toiletries. For dish soap, laundry soap, just have those in the cleaner's closet, and every time they can put a few out there,
Yeah.
depending on how many days or nights people are staying at. Toilet paper, paper towels. But one thing that's really important that we didn't do in the beginning, and I quickly realized that it was like we should do this, is shampoos and soaps and stuff. Like, you don't want to buy one big shampoo and just leave it in there for the next 10 guests. Like,
Yeah.
it gets sticky and dirty and disgusting.
Yeah.
So you could go to hotel suppliers, which basically sell little mini shampoos, body wash, conditioner, and soap and stuff to hotels. You just buy like in bulk, and every time your cleaners come, they just put a few out there, and then they throw it out. Even if they never use it, like if they use a little bit, we just throw it out and put new ones. So it looks a lot more cleaner, a lot more fresh. You want to put some art depending on where your Airbnb is. If you have, I'm just talking about basic Airbnbs, but if you have like a cottage with a waterfront access, obviously you want to put some activities like that. If you have a huge backyard, maybe put some volleyball nets, some sport balls and stuff. Like, you got to make it fun. It's all about experience, board games, things like that. You don't want it to just be a boring house with furniture and cutleries. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's got to be fun.
It's true, because when me and my friends, when we go to Airbnbs, that's one of the things we look for. We're like, what can we do there? Like, and also like especially for colleges, what amenities do they have? Like, the canoes are important. The volleyball nets. So yeah, that was great. Some other like small stuff that matters, right? It's also the small stuff that add up to make the great experience, right?
Absolutely. And then once you do all that stuff and now you want to list a property, what's really important is for you to take professional photos. Like, don't cheap out on this. You can use your smartphone or your own camera, or you could just hire a professional photographer. For us, because we're in the real estate business, it was a little easier. We just call our photographer, do some pictures. But I've seen a lot of people just take regular dark photos with their smartphone. And honestly, you won't get the result you want. Like, the pictures mean 1,000 words. So invest in that one time, and you'll have it for the rest of the life of that listing.
It's true, because if that one picture gets you more people to stay with you, it's definitely worth it, right? Like, there's no point tripping out at that point, especially it's marketing. Like, you can't chip on that one. Like, if someone was just selling a jacket or something, or clothes, and one picture looks great, one picture looks you won't get that much traction on the one that looks
Yeah, for sure, I agree. All right, so now you want to list your property. So there are a few things you gotta consider, right? Like photos, we talked about. The price is really important. In the beginning I explained you can lower the price to get more guests, fill up the calendar, and get higher reviews. But ultimately, you want to just kind of start setting the price. You don't want to be too high or too low. You want to be kind of around where you're going to be. And then another thing you want to know is holidays and stuff. You want to increase the price. Even if you go on hotel websites, there's certain times that are peak times of seasons, that you're gonna pay like so much more for a room than if you were in like the middle of a week, in the middle of no time. You know what I mean? So that's important. Where pricing changes and adjustments on holidays, long weekends, March break, those types, Thanksgiving, those times you can increase the price a little. And then during the week, you want to have it a little lower. Airbnb gives you pricing tips where you can use. So they kind of tell you, hey, like, we suggest you increase the price from like $330 to $295. You might get better results. Or or they never tell me to increase it. They always tell me to decrease it. So I've never had them tell me, say, hey, listen, you're leaving money on the table.
Oh, wow, really? Eh?
So they do, that's one. The settings is important. You know what I mean? Like for us, we have minimum 2 nights booking. We don't want to have people that just rent it for one night. Usually it's a party, unless very rare situations that someone's just driving through the town and they're like, oh, like something happened. They just need a room for a night. You know, usually it's a party.
Yeah.
So we kind of have a minimum. Some people have minimum 1 week. We're okay with 2 nights. You know, we don't encourage parties. If people tell us they want to have a party, like we usually don't allow it unless they tell us that it's just a gathering, but like they're going to be responsible. And that depends on which location too.
Yeah.
Like you don't want your neighbors to start complaining and calling the cops and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Right. And then there's other things like when you go into the setting that's important for you to adjust. So you gotta. We can talk more about this. Like we have a course, a mentorship program for our investors and clients who want to purchase properties and rent it out as Airbnb or short-term rentals, and we go in depth in these in that program.
Yeah, like we'll save that like real in depth for like more of the program itself. Here's more we want to like explain one of the pros and cons of what will be the hardships that you found in with Airbnb.
Well, basically, some people will try to contact you, and like early on, we kind of fell for it. They would call us and say, hey, is it possible for us to see the place before we book it? And then we would say, okay, sure. And then they would somehow because Airbnb doesn't allow you to share phone numbers with guests or hosts until it's booked. So some of these people were clever. They would just type out their phone numbers, and then we would call them. They would come to the place, and then they were like, could we just do a cash deal with you right now without Airbnb? And this way we can, both save money. Because Airbnb usually charges 3% to the host and about 6 to 7% for the guest. So it's about 10%. So if someone's giving you about like $2,000 or $5,000 for a couple of weeks or a week or two, that can quickly add up, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So then we said okay to one guest, and then later we had problems with them, and there was nothing we could do because we kind of tried to take a shortcut. So. Yeah. So then we realized, okay, you know what, forget it. Let's just stick to working with Airbnb. And if you're using the site, like just use the site, right? Like if you want to do if you want to use other ways of finding people, I think there are other websites where you can advertise it on your own, but just be careful because sometimes people are professional at trapping you.
Yeah, basically don't get too greedy. Play by the game because if something goes wrong, you don't have the backup of an insurance of a company helping you deal with all those troubles, right?
Yeah, for sure. And another tip I have is for you to save all your receipts for everything you buy for your Airbnb. Even if you buy something from Craigslist or Kijiji, just make that person send you an email or a text that, hey, thank you so much for paying this much for this item. Because what happens is if somebody damages your furniture or parts of your house, you can file a claim to Airbnb.
Okay.
And the first thing they ask is, okay, what was damaged and what is the either estimated cost or an invoice you got from a contractor or somebody, repairman or something.
Okay.
Or what you paid for this furniture. So in the beginning, I don't think we were that organized, so we didn't save any of these things.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of times where we kind of had to guess things, and it was a lot of hassle, you know what I mean? But now we have everything on Google Drive for each listing. We have all the things we bought. Recently, someone damaged our house really bad, and we ended up getting almost $5,000 from Airbnb.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Where before, we would lose that money because we were not organized. We didn't know what we were doing. So I think save all your receipts for everything you buy for that, even towels, sheets, because sometimes there are guests that just they're savages, they'll ruin your towels, your sheets, your everything, you know what I mean? And like you can get your money from Airbnb. That's the benefit of using a company like Airbnb, because first of all, you have security deposit from the guest, but you have insurance with Airbnb. But you gotta kind of prepare for that day.
Airbnb, if you're watching, you can sponsor us.
For sure. Yeah, they're pretty good with that. You just have to you have to be ready, right?
Yeah.
What else? What are some of the other things we can share with our viewers today?
Well, let's I think one thing that the viewers should know is like when you do buy investment for Airbnb, you do have to save some money for the supplies that Sam was talking about. The furniture, the linens, towels, all that stuff, and like kitchenware, all that stuff, like plates, forks, all that stuff. I think you should leave out a bit of income or money just for that, right? You can't just like think, oh, I'll spend this much money on Airbnb and then it's done. There's still a lot of things that come with it after, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And other things that's important is you can have instructions or manuals in the house, like on like the TV manual, if you have gas line barbecue in the backyard, maybe you can explain how to turn that on and make sure you turn it off so you don't blow up the house. Just basic things, you can do that to avoid people keep calling you. Yeah. Because like if you know they're gonna call you about certain things, if you just either create a manual and print it and put it on the wall, or send it to them in from the app, then you avoid keep getting people asking you those questions. And another thing is a checklist for the cleaners. Right? Like you want the cleaners when they go in there, you want them to have a system, not just even though our cleaning company is really good, like sometimes they may have a new cleaner that comes in that's not familiar with the house, and they may like drop the ball on a few important things, so we can't really rely on them. We take responsibility in providing them with a checklist of items and things that need to be done, and that way we're sure that if they do miss something, it's on them. Like they should be responsible because now you have a checklist. You have no excuse. Like, how did you miss that? That's on them. Yeah. And it avoids having people forget things, right? When there's a checklist. And another important thing is like if you have your thermostat, like one of those smart systems where you can control it from your phone. Sometimes when guests leave and there's a gap in between, you don't want to just have the heat on for 3-4 days. Blasting for no reason for nobody, you know what I mean? Or the AC on for a week when your place is empty. So
basically one of the best things to invest. One of the things to invest is you should invest in one of those wall thermostat that's you can control from your phone, right? Like, especially if it's far, like you're not allowed to drive all the way across town to turn it off, right? It's not.
And if you don't have one of those until you get one, you can add on the checklist for the cleaners. Every time they're leaving, make sure like in the summertime you put it on like 68 in the winter, like in the winter times 70, 71, depending on how cold or warm it is. Like you can just tell them, okay, every time you're finished cleaning, just put it on this, and then when the guests come, they can turn it up or down themselves, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So for rentals compared to Airbnb, do you think rentals technically you'll have more hassle, like, or is it more like Airbnb that you think you'll have more of a hassle?
I think if you do it right, like you can avoid having you can have less hassles in both of them. Even renting it traditionally, there's certain things you need to follow. But with the traditional renting, like if you get a good tenant, then you have no hassle. You know what I mean? Almost no hassle, because like we've had tenants in the past where they paid every month up front. They kept the house cleaner than like even we did. Like they fixed everything, cleaned it, like it would just look brand new, And we've had bad tenants where we were stuck with for the whole year or 6 months, or sometimes even if you try to evict them, it takes a long time.
Yeah, the eviction process is long, I hear.
Yeah. So with Airbnb, there's no rent. The thing I like about Airbnb is you may get a bad guest from time to time. Honestly, from every like 25 guests, maybe one is bad.
That's a pretty good ratio.
You know what I mean? And when they're bad, like, I mean, they just make a mess. They damage things. Maybe they don't check out on time. It's not things that's the end of the world. But at the end of the day, you don't have a lease agreement with them. So with the Airbnb guest, the thing with the Airbnb guest is you might get a bad one from one out of every 50. You know what I mean? And what happens is even that bad guest, it's not like they haven't paid you, because you get your money up front through Airbnb. It's just they might leave late. They might make a little bit more mess than other normal guests. They might damage a thing or two. It's all things that you can protect yourselves against anyways. You know what I mean? And ultimately, if they don't leave your house, they can't. Like, you can just call the cops if they're trespassing. Because, like, cops don't, for rentals, like traditional rent, if you call the cops and say, they're gonna say, okay, you have a lease agreement. Sorry, we can't get involved. You gotta go through tenant landlord board. But with Airbnb, if the cop comes there and there's that person is supposed to check out, they're just gonna kick them out. Like they're just gonna say you're trespassing and they'll leave, right? So I think there's pros and cons in both of them. Ultimately, like there's much more profits in doing Airbnbs, a little bit more work, but you just gotta educate yourself and figure out the ways to do it. So this way you can, number one, be more profitable. Number two, have less hassle. And number three, have a good reputable host. You know, a host that people can rely on having a good experience, not just somewhere to sleep.
Yeah, I think a lot of talking to some other people before regarding deals, they're a little hesitant for Airbnb because like it's too much hassle. Like I think just they never understood the full aspect of it, and I hope some people understand it more now. And I think through what you've been talking about, the most important thing is having a well thought out system. And once the system's in place, it just runs like a machine where it's not much hassle at all anymore. Like and you earn so much more compared to rental incomes, right?
Yeah. Honestly, I felt the same way. Like when my sister brought up, like I don't remember how many years ago, like let's do Airbnb instead of renting it traditionally. Like at first thing came to my head is like people are gonna damage the house, people are gonna party, someone's gonna kill someone in our house. Like all these negative, dark thoughts. You know what I mean? But then, once I realized, like, I really don't have much choice here. You know what I mean? I just got to figure this shit out. And I just got to figure this out and figure out a way to do it. So, but then I came across this course that I learned all these things. So even without the course, I could have done it. But the course kind of just put me on the right path and not make the same mistakes as others have made, right?
Probably saved you a lot of grief.
Exactly. Exactly. So I think definitely Airbnb is the way to go, especially if you want to create positive cash flow, have passive income, while you're still able to enjoy those mega appreciations in Toronto. Then Airbnb is the way to go. Because in Toronto you can't get those. You can get the mega appreciations, but you can't get those mega cash flow. Passive income properties because they don't like you can't have both unless you're gonna do Airbnb.
Yeah. That's true.
Some people going to Calgary, New Brunswick, out west and east, and investing in areas where the properties are cheaper and the rents are a little bit higher.
Yeah.
So they're able to create cash flow, but then they make like $20,000 a year appreciation.
Yeah.
It's not much, right? So for me, I like both of them. I like cash flow and mega appreciations. And I'm willing to do a little bit of extra work to create that. And I think Airbnb has made it much, much easier. Otherwise, like if you had to do all these things, it would be much, much harder.
Yeah, and I think with the effort you're putting in for the amount you're getting back is definitely more worth it. Like, because, yes, rental incomes, you can, if you have a good tenant, you just kind of leave it as is. And like you don't have to worry about much. But yeah, that you're not, in this market now, you're not getting any cash flow. You're still paying out of your pocket most of the time until you hit a certain point, right? Like, and then Airbnb. You can even do what you can do is Airbnb at first until your mortgage goes at a certain point, and then after that you can maybe do a long-term rental. And
once you get the taste of Airbnb,
that's probably true.
Even if your mortgage goes down, like let's just say your mortgage is $3,000 and you're making like $6,000 a month from Airbnb. So you're netting like around $3,000. Let's just say you're netting. Forget about the expense.
Yeah.
But with traditional rent, you're getting like $2,750 or $2,500.
Yeah.
So obviously you're gonna start with Airbnb, and as you pay down the mortgage, Airbnb price obviously just like rent will go up too. And at some point, like the rent, if you rent it for $3,000, your mortgage is like $2,200. You make $800 a month.
Yeah.
But if at that point you can make $4,000 a month, why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah, exactly. It's like you're used to certain money now.
It becomes easier. It becomes like that. One thing I want to say, it becomes much easier. Like when we started, we didn't know anything. We just winged it. It was a little easier for us because we were in the real estate business. But I think it's so simplified. Like it's basically you just put it on the listing. Even if you screw everything up, you'll still make money.
That's true.
All these things we talked about today is just to make the most amount of money with the least amount of hassle, and you know, kind of like scale this much faster. It doesn't
Yeah.
like you can literally screw everything up and still make money on it.
That's true. Just more how much money. It's not about if you're gonna make money. It's how much money you're gonna make at the
Absolutely,
end, right?
yeah. And it's not for everybody, but you know, if you liked our call today and you want to know more about, like, if you want to learn more about this, more about this topic, more about the ins and outs of actually listing your properties on Airbnb and how to pricing strategy, the setting up your settings. There's a lot more that goes into it that we didn't get into today, but we do have a course, a mentorship program for our investors. Like, we're not selling this to anybody. We're only providing this as added value to our clients who would like to buy properties to use as Airbnbs. We would definitely love to talk to you. Hey, thank you so much for listening to our podcast today. If you enjoyed it and got value out of it, hit the subscribe button and follow us for more.